Good evening. If we could call to order the regular board meeting of Tuesday, May 19th, please. We have an opening prayer. We'll get to just a minute. I want to welcome our guests and just let you know that our meeting tonight will be audio and visually recorded and available on our YouTube channel. Again, welcome. And Jason, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our prayer tonight is the famous one, Make Me an Instrument of Your Peace, by St. Francis of Assisi. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I not so much seek to be consoled as to console. Not so much to be understood as to understand. Not so much to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we awake to eternal life. St. Francis, pray for us.
Thank you, Jason. And now Trustee Intimasi will read the motions adopted and or information received in camera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From HR in retirements, we have Carmen Agro Di Benedictus, Patricia Downs, Marianne McDonald, Lou Mazzi, Linda Obermeyer, Anne-Marie O'Donnell, Susan Paradiso, and Josette Sanderson, effective June 30th, 2015. In department head reappointments, we have Lindsay Cheel, Elizabeth Robertson, Peter Spakowski, Gino Camaletti, Rosalie Shaw, Michael Slushky, Vito Battaglia, and Claudio Sartori, reappointed as department heads effective September 1st, 2015 for a period of up to 4 years. We also have Corrine Bracco, reappointed as staffing assistant effective September 1st, 2015 for a period of up to 4 years. In department head appointments, we have Elise O'Hare and Robert D. Diodato, appointed as department heads effective September 1st, 2015 for a period of up to 4 years. And lastly, we have secondary vice principals appointments. We have Chris, might mess this up, Chilizek, and Kathleen Morrow, appointed as secondary vice principals effective September 1st, 2015. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move to the approval of the agenda. Additions, deletions. Trustee Janko.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a notice of motion.
Okay.
Do I read the text of that?
Yes,
now?
please.
Okay, so at the next regularly scheduled board meeting, I would like to move the following. Whereas concerned parents and ratepayers across Ontario have signed public petitions with over 100,000 signatures rejecting the current health and physical education curriculum due to its graphic content. Whereas the Government of Ontario promised parents that the government would consult with the people of Ontario on a new sex education program. Whereas the contents of the 2015 health and physical education curriculum as presented has unified Ontarians from all culture and religious backgrounds in denouncing age-inappropriate explicit content that specifically contradicts Catholic moral teaching. The text in grade 6, age 11, describes masturbation as a pleasurable thing that is not harmful. In grade 7, age 12, promotes anal and oral sex at an inappropriate age. The text A never mentions love at all, thus removes sexual education from the notions of love, commitment, and marriage. Rarely refers children to their parents as the primary consultants for their children's decision about their sexual activities. And whereas the decision of the province and the Catholic bishops of Ontario to assign to the Institute of Catholic Education the task of producing teaching resources to deal with the inappropriate material is an implicit concession that the curriculum contradicts Catholic teaching and is not appropriate for Catholic children. Whereas the Halton Catholic District School Board believes that if the material is harmful to Catholic children, then it is harmful to all children, and the Halton Catholic School Board stands in solidarity with all people of goodwill from any cultural or faith community. Whereas Catholic school trustees have the exclusive constitutional mandate to adapt Ministry of Education curricula to ensure that it does not contradict Catholic teaching. Be it resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board will delay the implementation of the 2015 Health and Physical Education curriculum until September of 2016 to allow parents, trustees, board officials, and all interested ratepayers the opportunity to familiarize themselves with the program and provide feedback on the program, and until further consultation with parents, religious, and cultural leaders takes place to resolve the reasonable and serious concerns thousands of people in Halton and across Ontario have with this program.
Thank you. And yes, please. If we can have a mover of the agenda as amended. Trustee Quinn, seconded by Trustee Carabella. All in favor? Can we raise our hands one more time? Okay. All right. So, any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we now move on to our presentations. And we ask Mary Ann Salvo, please, to come forward and speak of the Unity in Diversity Award. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Mother Teresa said, we need to do ordinary things with extraordinary love. And Chloe's dream was that extraordinary feat that we all are amazed. So she was able, through her passion, to start a movement. We see lessons of a leadership guy, but really it's lessons of a leadership Black woman with a passion to have courageous conversations in regards to race. And it is with great pleasure that I present this to Chloe, because I know all the efforts that it took her to actually raise awareness and also impassion students to realize that they can make a difference, they can be social change makers if they work together in something that they truly believe in. So, Chloe, even though you were texting me 11 o'clock the night before with your speech and kept us awake, it is with great pleasure that I present you with this award.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Congratulations, Chloe. Moving on, we have the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton Youth Award. Superintendent Negro, would you like to speak to that?
Through you, Madam Chair. Halton Catholic schools are awesome because of our students and our staff. And it's just wonderful to be able to recognize some of our students this evening with some regional awards. And Chloe was the first of those awards. In the life of a superintendent, there are many long evenings. Some of the most enjoyable long evenings are when you get to go to a celebration, an award celebration where students and staff and our schools are recognized. So one of those evenings was the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton Gala Awards Night. At this awards night, one of our schools was recognized with the MaxCon Education Award, and that was St. Thomas Aquinas. And Principal Jonker is here this evening with some staff from St. Thomas Aquinas. So I want to congratulate St. Thomas Aquinas for winning this award, a school award. And the category was for providing an equitable and inclusive environment for all students. So we want all our schools to be such, and we congratulate STA for the recognition by the CCAH. That same evening, another really inspiring student was recognized. His name is Roland Dodu. Roland came to us 2 years from Ghana. Tough neighborhood he lived in Ghana. Not a lot of hope for kind of future aspirations, so he and his mom came to Canada. They started their journey in Canada in one of the tougher areas of Toronto, the Jane Finch neighborhood. And Roland's mom decided that there might be better opportunities for him in Oakville. And the second he stepped foot in Oakville, there were 2 or 3 people that really took an interest in Roland and provided him with some support, some guidance, and other vast amounts of love. And so Principal Jonker is here this evening. The guidance secretary, Julie Arcaro, is in the back row. Julie, just raise your hand for a minute. This is Roland's STA mother, and she's affectionately known as such. And there is another person, a CYC, who's not here tonight. His name is Fernando Costa, and he has been just a great friend and mentor to Roland. In the presentation summary, you'll see that Roland has done very well for himself, especially in track. He's the second fastest man in Halton, and we hope for great things for him. There will be a race after the meeting between me and Roland, and I said I'm going to do it as long as you give me a huge head start. So after this meeting, we'll be racing in the parking lot. But Roland, we are so proud of you, and on behalf of the board, we want to recognize your accomplishments and the promise that you bring to our community and the hope that you represent for all students. So on behalf of the board, please come and accept a certificate from Director Dawson and Chair Michael. Okay, get ready for that race, man. All right. Okay.
Congratulations, Roland. Moving on, you have another award to hand out, the Halton Multicultural Council Recognition Award for Youth.
Right. Well, through you, Madam Chair, this award was presented to one of our students, another STA student, at the Halton Multicultural Council Gala Dinner. And the recipient is Calvin Ryder, a grade 12 student at STA. Calvin is a super interesting guy. He designs water filtration systems for third world countries, and they work. And you know, he's a musician, and he was elected to the World Youth Parliament for Water. So already in his short number of years, he's achieved so much, and we're so proud of him. And I know that his mom and dad are here tonight, very proud as well. He holds citizenship Irish citizenship, Australian citizenship, and Canadian citizenship. So quite an extensive passport list. And he has been involved in the infamous PJs at STA that do so much good work. This group shows up every Friday, 200 strong, to do volunteer work at STA, and they pick local and global charities to support. So we're so proud of Calvin and his accomplishments thus far. He's headed to university next year, and we'll be tracking him. I'm sure we'll be seeing him and his accomplishments soon in the papers. So Calvin, congratulations. We are so proud of you, and please come and accept the certificate from Chair Michael and Director Dawson.
And another award for Bay Area Science and Engineering Fair.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. So if anyone has ever been to BASEF, it's kind of like a convocation ceremony where there are, hundreds of kids who line up to receive not their degrees, but awards from the Bay Area Science and Engineering Fair. And one such student was Katie Brent. I just put a picture of her up on screen there. She's actually ill tonight and couldn't make it. But as I was sitting I was on the stage as one of the presenters of awards, and they kept calling this name, Katie Brent. Katie Brent, come and pick up your award for this category and that category. And Katie wasn't in her uniform that night. And so I thought to myself, there were all different schools and school boards there, and I thought, man, this girl is winning everything. She must be from one of the, the other boards, because I don't recognize her. And then I went up for another award that she won, and I saw her name, Katie Brent, Notre Dame, and I knew that Hamilton Catholic didn't have a Notre Dame. So it was a time of exuberation for me, and recognizing that Katie was from our board was just, did I say exuberation? I think I meant exhilaration. So it was just a thrill to realize that Katie was from our board and was winning all of these awards. She actually built a robotic arm and was one of the finalists in New Brunswick this weekend at the Canada-wide Science Fair. And we just got a press release today saying that she won second prize overall in Canada. So she has displayed this arm to the Notre Dame family of schools. We were hoping to get a little demo tonight, but she's ill. So we'll congratulate her in absentia and get her the certificate. Jason, did you want to say something?
Yes, Jason.
Thanks. I just wanted to add that Katie Brent is actually also a lead senator on our Senate, and she helped us run a couple conferences this year, and she's a really nice girl, so if she was here, she'd appreciate this.
Thank you. And we have yet another presentation, our archive project, and spearheaded by Superintendent McGillicuddy and Scott Millard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While Scott Millard from Library Services is setting up the electronic stuff that I don't know how to operate, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the archive project. Back in 2013, there was a committee that was established to look at how we could best capture and keep a historical record of the many great accomplishments and things of which Halton Catholic is justifiably proud. And recognizing that there isn't any real space available to keep actual objects so much, it was decided to pursue an electronic archive. And Scott Millard is the gentleman who undertook the project of establishing what that ought to look like and how it ought to operate. And so this evening he's here to give you a little bit of a demonstration of the kinds of things that one can find on the archive and how it operates. So, Scott, over to you.
Actually, it's very good following this group, this wonderful group, because one of the intent of the archive was to celebrate Catholic education in Halton. We hear it, but let's record it, and that's the intent of the archive. It's just to provide a place where we can record all this information, all this wonderful work that we have done, and look at the past, look at the present, and continually add to it. I drive everything through 2 pages. Anything public is now all driven through the public webpage, hcdsb.org. Under students, there is the library resource page. And while I'm here, I just want to mention to people too, don't forget this is I consider this my digital literacy page. There's a lot of material here for parents, for our staff, for students, whatever, on digital literacy, how to evaluate a website, how to do a bibliography, how to analyze primary documents, what's the difference in a primary source and a secondary source for the new social studies curriculum. So a lot of material is here that I do want to bring to people's attention. To find the archive, as you will see, there's 2 different categories that we need to look at. There's the elementary or secondary. Basically, it's the divisions within it. It doesn't matter which one you go into it. I've set up archives in both one of them. Once you're in it, you will see that the categories, again, the blue is the basic divisions. So a lot of it is by the subjects, art, that type of thing. And then within, you see all the databases that we have relevant to that subject. This board is very committed to digital resources, and I've been very lucky to have the support throughout on digital resources. And in talks with other boards, we really do have to consider ourselves as the leader when it comes to digital resources. Many other boards are very envious of what we have to offer. But you will notice the second one is the archive. So when you're in the archive, then on the side panel, you will see the actual link to the archive itself. There's 2 things that I want to mention with the archive. There is, first of all, a website where we can post documents. For example, I have here the history of the parish document. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that. That was done several years ago. It's got wonderful information on the early foundation of the Catholic Church and Catholic education in Halton. So I scanned that in and I've posted it here too. We had the 25th anniversary celebration posted here. Basically, you work your way through. And I'll quickly go through. This is the intent tonight is kind of just to show you where we're going. So you have basically the home page, the history of the Catholic Board. So you do have the 25th anniversary, and you also have the history of the parishes, which is a downloadable document, searchable, downloadable document. Celebrating success. We had the awards tonight. Let's record them. So I have a page for the Sharing the Spirit. We have all the Sharing the Spirit award winners posted now online, plus the other awards that we had tonight. Let's start recording now the wonderful things that are happening in the board so we have a constant record for them. And I'll just go into, for example, Sharing the Spirit, and it's just a long list of the awards. If you're looking for a specific award for a specific year, you just simply click on it and you're right in the document itself. Archive mandate. This is kind of what drives the archive, with the main emphasis being its visual. We don't have a place to store at this stage, maybe in the future, but right now we're looking simply at a digital archive. Help searching the catalog, I'm not going to go into. Other places to look, we have to acknowledge the wonderful work that our partners in Halton have done. So the Halton Images, all the Halonet group, the wonderful information, phenomenal early records, especially for Halton Hills and Acton. Incredible detail, information. We can get newspaper recording back to, I think it's 1880, for Halton Hills and Acton. Other board resources, etc. Okay, I do want to mention to us, help us too. This is where we can post things. For example, I had a request recently for a picture of Georges Vanier's school. We can't find one. I actually have now 2 yearbooks of Georges Vanier, but unfortunately in the yearbooks they don't actually show the school. but at least we've got some. But this is the intent here. Let's put out a call to people to help us. Okay, looking at the archive itself. I decided, with talk of a lot of people, we're using the same software that we use for our school library. That means every single student in the board, every single staff member should be familiar with how to search it. It also means that I get incredible support from the supply company, that type of thing. So there's a lot of benefits we're gaining this way. I can also embed this in each school catalog. So if I was sitting at St. Matthew's and I decided to search the library catalog of St. Matthew's and I type in something such as Lent, I can actually not only see the resources at St. Matthew, plus the digital resources, plus anything from the archive. So it would allow that seamless integration of all the resources that we have. I haven't set it up at present, but it can be done. Two different ways that we can search. Let's do a fun one. We can simply type in a word. If you know what you're looking for, or if you know where you are looking for, the school, St. Matthew, that type of thing, you can actually type in the word. Fun one is mugs. Believe it or not, I've started a collection of mugs from around the board. So there you have all the mugs that I have available. I know it's a silly little thing, but you know what? It actually shows a lot of information. We can actually see the different mugs from the Adult Learning Center to St. Timothy's, whatever. When you click on the entry, we get further information on it. So I have cataloged it, so we do have all the subject headings, which allows some integration. So again, if I'm looking at St. Matthew, St. Timothy, that type of thing, I can actually do a search and I can get all the resources. I have as much information as possible. And you will also notice that I am able to go for a large, if it's going to load, a large scale photo. So it allows that capability that if I want to look at the detail of a document, of a picture, whatever, I can actually blow it up and get the information right there. So that's one way of searching. You will also notice down here where it says review, rate this item, we do allow and encourage participation from the world at large. It doesn't matter who is using this. They can rate it. They can rate it on a 4-star, 3-star, 1-star, whatever. But they can also write comments. This is incredibly useful on those ones where we make a mistake. We had an example just recently where it was a photo we were trying to place the school. Everyone thought it was the old St. John Burlington. We actually posted it, and it turned out to be Croydon Road when St. John Burlington actually closed during the renovations and then moved over to Croydon Road. But it was because we posted it, someone saw it, put it in the comment, we were able to correct the cataloging. Now, another way of searching is through the topic search, and this is the browse capability. You will notice that I can actually I can go to Oakville, I can go to whatever community I am looking for. Let's go under Milton. When I'm in Milton, and again, it's a work in progress, so not all the schools are listed here. The ultimate goal is to have each of the schools listed here. So I have Bishop Redding, for example. I have, come on, move. Okay, I have Jean Vanier, I have Queen of Heaven, and I have St. Benedict. Simply click on the picture, and here are all the entries. It tells you there's 33 entries. I can actually change the number of entries on a page up to 100 at a time. And I can quickly scroll through and get all the entries that we have for Queen of Heaven. And again, we simply click on one of these. It doesn't matter which one we want to click on. How about the home game for St. Benedict? If I want to see the larger picture, I can. But that's the type of thing that we need to celebrate. And I'm hopefully making it as easy as possible. Then if I want to go back, you simply click on the go back. I'm back in the search. Unfortunately, it took me to the wrong search. But this is the process that you would simply walk through. So you can go to Halton Hills. We only have CTK at present, and we've got several pictures from CTK. But that's the intent at this stage. I do want to show you St. John Burlington. I'll be really quick. If we go to Burlington, it's not really a touch screen. Come on, work. Okay, St. John Burlington. Because St. John Burlington was one of the few that we were actually able to find some documents for their, I forget what anniversary it was, they actually did some research and found some documents. So, for example, we have in Burlington, I'll just pull up this one, for example. Let's go for the full size. That's not, well, okay, it's not opening properly. And this, what it would do is it would actually take you to the document where you could actually read. This is about the setting up of separate schools. You will also notice that I actually have written down here all the wording, that's the best way to put it, on the document. I'm not sure why it's not displaying here. It's downloading instead of displaying, but I won't worry about that. That's the intent. You can actually just simply click on it and then work your way through. You can also go for new items, what has been recently cataloged, and you will be able to see when it decides to move all the recent items. So if you regularly check the archive, you just want to see what is new, you can actually go to that and find out what's new. We also will, so here for example is, we got a lot from the board office just recently, thanks with Boris Hoffman's help. Kindergarten hallway, Twitter, believe it or not, is my new friend. The amount of photos that we can find on Twitter is incredible. And so I've been copying them and building them into the archive. You will notice that there are no pictures of people. Just due to that murky copyright issue, at this stage, it's probably best to stay away from identifiable pictures of people. Queen of Heaven, you saw the back. I have pictures of kids working on math, but you see their back. But a face where you can identify the student, there's a lot of questions and concerns about copyright. A photo from 1962, for example, a class photo, we would actually need to guarantee that we have the permission of every single one of those students to actually be able to put it up. And then there's that whole question of when you become an adult, do you now own your own copyright? So it's easiest to avoid the whole issue. I'm just mentioning that in case you do wonder why there are almost no pictures. But here, for example, grade 5 at St. Benedict, wonderful Stations of the Cross. This is from a Twitter account. And in the catalog record, I do mention that it did came from a Twitter account. That's where I'm going. Eventually, I will build in the links, and I'll have links to, again, all the public libraries in Halton. I will have links to Halton Images and all that wonderful resource bank built in there. But that's the intent that I'm going for with the ultimate plan, if we get going with it, to have a seamless integration with the library catalogs. So again, you do a search, you get all resources regardless of where it's housed or the intent of it. Okay? Brief introduction, but that's what I want you to know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Does anyone have any questions of Scott? Yes, don't go away.
No, I won't.
Trustee Ravenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Scott. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for all the work you've done. I was on the committee that started this off, and it was a tremendous amount of work, and we really didn't know which way we're going to be as organized as we could be. So you've done a great job on it, so thank you. Are you still looking for the photo of George Vanier?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah. We actually, I stopped Ed Podgorski too because he taught there. I was asking him for pictures, and unfortunately he just cleaned out a whole pile of pictures. I do not see an end to this archive. Much the same as libraries, we never end. So I'm going to continually add. The ultimate goal is to actually kind of put out a word to the world at large. Anyone who went in to any of our schools, do we have École Saint-Marie, for example? There's École Sacré-Cœur in Georgetown. We have École Saint-Félix. I got banners of those today. Boris Hoffman found banners for those, but that's all we have. So that wealth of information, anything at all, would be of use to us. I want to develop a forum which would make it easier. And again, we can simply do it digital. You can either, if you have physical photos, I can scan them in and then return them to you. If you have digital photos, you can send them to me, and you would just need to record basic information so I can upload it to the document. Yeah, any help at all, absolutely.
Trustee Intomasi.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Scott. I just think the whole thing is fabulous because I remember when it was starting, so it's really nice to finally see what the end product is getting to be. And I'm just wondering, can we not put this into newsletters and get word out to parishes? Because I'm thinking there's some older people out in the parishes like me who may see that and have pictures.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the only one who actually is inputting the information at this stage. My goal was during the summer to actually concentrate more on the archive. I currently have about, thanks to Boris Hoffman, close to 700 photos to actually enter in. But yes, I welcome any information, any way of getting the word out there. At present, we've been approaching people who we knew were at schools. I mentioned Mr. Pogorski, for example, so I approached him to see what he had. But any information at all, we need to get it, we need to centralize it, make it available.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Scott, and we'll try our best to keep you busy. Moving on the agenda, we have no delegations. If I could have an approver of the minutes of the regular board meeting of May the 5th, please. Trustee Intomasi, seconder. Trustee Trites, all in favor? Thank you. We have a summary of the outstanding items for your information, 7.1. And we move on to our action items. Policy 3-17, Attendance Support Program, first reading. Trustee Marai.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. The following Policy 3-17 Attendance Support Program was passed at the Policy Committee on May 12th, and it reads, resolved the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee and approve Policy 3-17 Attendance Support Program at first reading.
Do I have a mover for that? Trustee Quinn, seconder. Trustee Intomasi, all in favor? So moved. Policy 2-40...
Madam Chair, can I just clarify one thing too, that this is now going out for consultation to the community?
Pardon? As first reading? Yes, thank you. Policy 2-49, ESL and ELD programs and services. First reading. Trustee Marai.
This was also passed on May 12th, last Wednesday, and it's just to update this to coincide with the guidelines released in the most up-to-date Ministry of Education documentation. Resolved the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee to approve Policy 2-49, ESL and ELD program and services at first reading.
May I have a mover, please? Trustee Trite, seconded by Trustee Rabenda. All in favor? Thank you. Policy 2-28, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Drug Education and Abuse in Schools. Trustee Marai.
The Policy Committee was very busy, Madam Chair, and this is the third policy that we wanted to bring forward to the board. Be it resolved that the Halton Catholic District School Board accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee to approve Policy 2-28, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Drug Education and Abuse in Schools as amended.
Have a mover, please. Trustee Rowe, seconded by Trustee Rabenda. All in favor? So moved. Next we have our Core French Resources Selection. Superintendent Negro.
Through you, Madam Chair, this is an action item to purchase the EcoPro Grade 6 resource. The costing is there, and this follows the purchase of the Grade 5 and for the Grade 5 resource last year. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
If there are no questions, we have a mover for this action item. Trustee Intomasi, seconded by Trustee Rowe. All in favor? So moved. And now we move on to our strategic plan update. Director Dawson, Superintendent Narr, and Dr. Rossmuir. Director Dawson.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. At the May 5th board meeting, trustees were presented with a slide deck on strategic planning from our consultant. And it talked about the types of stakeholder groups to be consulted, the clustering of groups, and proposed questions to be asked during the consultation. Trustees made a number of suggestions to the stakeholder groups, the types of questions, and the timelines, and asked for an action report to come forward, which is tonight, so that we could confirm those groups and approaches and questions and a timeline. So what you find before you, trustees, are an outline as to just some information on when to use different types of consultative approaches, definitions. And Table 2 talks about the types of questions that trustees probably were asking for when we go out to consultation. However, these questions may be tailored depending on the type of consultation you do. For example, more descriptive pull-down menus for when you have a variety of choices, such as an online survey questionnaire. So the Table 2 presents the general questions. Also, on Appendix 1, there is the types of groups that trustees wish to consult with. And when we talked about this, it looks like that most of the groups that trustees wish to consult with are addressed in two different manners. So we have town halls, we have focus groups, both internal and external stakeholder groups, as well as a general revised timeline for the scope to accommodate the request. So I present this action report to trustees.
Questions? Trustee Rabenda? Do I have a seconder? Trustee Danko, all in favor? So moved. Moving on to staff reports, Superintendent McMahon with our 2015-16 budget estimates update number 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since the last board meeting, if you'll recall, we were showed a shortfall of 1.5 million. I'll draw trustees' attention to Appendix G. Sorry, I'll try to find that in the package here too. That's the changes since the last report, the last board meeting. So with a combination of revenue increases and net expenditure reductions, right now there's a small operating in-year surplus projected in the budget of 36,000, which is shown on page 2 of the top of page 2 of the report. I would also mention further to Trustee Quinn's queries at the last board meeting on the budget, I don't think we mentioned Appendix B, B1, and B2. And on Appendix B, we reference Appendix B1 and B2 in the first column for the two large items there in our expenses, 25 million and 13 million. And we break those down further in B1 and B2. We've added some notes on B2 to try to explain in more detail what's in those line items, and as we indicated at the last meeting, there is very little discretionary room in the budget. We have split the new initiatives in terms of program enhancements, what's included in the budget, new initiatives included in the budget, and those yet to be included in the budget into 3 separate appendices, D1, D2, D3, which is a little different from last time. So this is still a work in progress, as is indicated in the chart in bold at the bottom of page 2 of the report. Staff, senior staff, and finance staff continue to work on the budget, with the goal, obviously, to bring in a balanced budget, keep it balanced as it is right now, and continue to finish some remaining items that are indicated in the report. And myself, Roxana, or members of senior staff would be happy to answer any questions trustees may have.
Questions? Trustee Quinn?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Could you work us through the budget estimate schedule, please? So on the 25th and 26th, I think my glasses aren't on, and June 2nd, what are the events that will happen around this table regarding the finalization of the upcoming budget and leading to our signing off on it. What is the schedule in more detail, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Quinn, this is the second draft board report. There'll be one more coming forward at the next board meeting, and final approval at the second board meeting in June. Again, we're open to any comments trustees may have, but we're working our way through the process as indicated in the report. Roxanne, did you want to add anything to that?
Do I have any other questions? Trustee Marai.
I'm just hoping for a bit of historical context on, so I'm on page 36 or 2 of 6 of the specific report. And just if you could work us through a historical context of the transfer to school renewal reserve and the transfer to board's working fund reserve. How has that looked? How has that looked over the past 5-10 years? And how do you see that going forward over the next couple of years?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Marai, the old renewal reserve is the renewal reserve we had up until a few years ago, and there was a demarcation point there where the grant, obviously we call it old and new. This is the reserve that the ministry has pointed out to us that they'd like us to build a capital reserve in that area, and both on the operating and the capital side. Roxanne, the balances in those we're about 1.3 million in the budget. I think 600,000 and 700,000 to be added to the those balances. So what's our total old renewal reserve would be?
I believe it's about 4.7.
Okay.
And we have about 800 in the revised estimates.
Right.
For the working funds reserve, so we are hoping to add another 600 to that.
Trustee Marai?
What's our responsibility as a school board to react to the request of is it a request or is it demand or is it from the province to build up that reserve?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would characterize it more as a demand, and they did reference it in a presentation at the Ontario Association of School Business Officials Conference a couple of Fridays ago. They're approaching all boards to look at those amounts and to keep them, again, the working funds reserve, they want us to have about 1% of our allocation, which for us would be about 3.2 million. They haven't specified a number in the old school renewal reserve, but to maybe further answer Trustee Marai's earlier question, the historical context is we've often used large amounts out of that reserve on one particular capital project. Loyola would be, the Loyola addition would be an example. We put about $7 million out of that reserve into that project because there was no other funding source to cover that, with ministry approval, of course. So they want us to build that to make sure we have enough renewal reserve to look after the needs of all of our schools. Fortunately, our school stock is in very good condition, but it won't stay that way forever.
Any other, Trustee Carabella?
Through you, Madam Chair. On Appendix D3, the new initiatives not yet included in the budget, so it's page 56. Just wondering the process of how these do get included in the budget, and are they prioritized?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Carabella, yes, they are prioritized through the work efforts of senior staff, and they would get included in the budget potentially if funding for them was identified. So basically, we've put enough of them in right now, if you will, in priority order based on the funding calculations we've made at this point in time.
Any other questions? Thank you, Superintendent McMahon. Moving on, the 2015 joint review of the 2013 Education Development Charges Bylaw. Superintendent McMahon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a staff report in anticipation of an action report coming forward to you in June. We are allowed under the Education Act to, and the background information in the report indicates the reports that we've brought forward on this topic before now. We are allowed each year in the EDC bylaw, which covers a period of not more than 5 years, to increase the residential and non-residential levy amounts based on land costs and site development costs. We have undertaken that review through Watson and Associates, and Jack Amendolia is here tonight, and with the help of Brad Teichman, our legal counsel, with the public board jointly on this matter. You will notice that there are some rather substantial increases. If I go to page 3 of 4 of the report at the top, the chart, those reflect the large increases in land values that we're experiencing, mostly in North Oakville and South Milton. There's a little change there it was noticed last week, so we made a quick edit to the chart there. That previously read the proposed charge would be $21.86. It's now $21.76. So meetings have gone on with BUILD. BUILD is the Building Industry and Land Development Association representing the developers, and so this charge has been discussed with them. So Fred, Jack, and Brad, going from my right to left, or myself, are here to answer any questions trustees may have on this.
Trustee Quinn, Trustee Intomasi.
Through you, Madam Chair, can you just give me a ballpark of what these increases will mean to the bottom line of our board?
I don't have an exact number. The shortfall is indicated at 53 million currently, and that's on page 2 of 4 of the report. The paragraph, I guess about 2/3 of the way down the page. It will put a dent in that shortfall, but it will be contingent on the number of housing starts and additions to gross floor area for non-residential builds, if you will, Madam Chair. So I don't know if I'll maybe throw that over to Fred, Jack, or it'd be a tough guess right now on what that amount would be, but the levy, the calculation workup in the attached report supports the increasing the levy amounts to what's shown in there. So it's an effort to try to combat that shortfall that's mentioned in the report and we spoke about previously.
Trustee Intomasi.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I'm just curious as to how BUILD feels about all of this. I don't know if the general public actually realizes how much they're paying per house, per dwelling, when they purchase a home, that they realize that this is built in there. It's unfortunate because I feel like they're getting the double whammy because their taxes go to it and then they get penalized, bad word, but penalized again for it. So I'm just wondering also how BUILD feels about it, because every time a developer goes into a place, they're paying more and more towards these charges. So I'm just wondering whether they're going to accept this easily, or whether you anticipate that they are going to fight it in any way.
Well, through you, Madam Chair, I'll let Fred or Jack respond, but my preliminary comments would be, firstly, we have talked to them, and my understanding is that they are okay with these increases because they understand where land values have gone in our region. Our levy amounts get added to the public boards one on top of that, but ours relative to the DC, the charge from the region, are they're orders of magnitude higher than that. So, yes, we would be part of the problem, if you will, in terms of higher residential prices, if you will. But there's no other mechanism available for us currently in the whole tax scheme, if you will, of a ratepayer to buy sites for in these growth areas. Jack, I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Moving on to Early French Immersion Program Review, Superintendent Negro.
Through you, Madam Chair. To begin, I'd like to thank the Research and Development Office at Halton Catholic District School Board for providing such a comprehensive report and review of the Early French Immersion Program. Without them, we really wouldn't have a basis for a good discussion. So I want to thank Dr. Van Roosmalen and her staff for this report. This is the report ahead of an action report where you will be presented with the recommended options and the other options for final review. It's an extensive report, so I'd just like to go through the highlights in the staff report, and I'll comment on each one briefly. For staffing and quality instruction, all school boards in the province continue to face a relative shortage in qualified French as a second language teacher. And to dig a little deeper into that issue, everyone who has a French as a second language qualification isn't necessarily suitable to teach in immersion and extended programs, so the supply becomes thinner and thinner. We don't anticipate that this will improve greatly over the next few years, and we're always kind of touch and go to make sure that we have enough really good quality staff in our programs come September, the first day of school in September. So this continues to be an issue. Looking at the student outcomes section, no real surprises based on the research. No big conclusions to be drawn yet. It's a very small data sample, so we'll hold off on any conclusions in that particular area. Equitable access to the program says in the last nugget there that students enrolled in the program for year 1 and 2 appear to be distributed fairly randomly across neighborhoods for each of the 4 regional sites. As you may know, we have a first come first served registration process for this optional program. There's no really good foolproof registration process. Each option, each typical process has some downfalls, but we are getting good coverage in each of our areas and how they are randomly distributed across neighborhoods. The retention rate, sustainable enrollments, the retention rate's not bad actually, but again, we still don't have a full program. So the range of attrition in immersion programs has been reported anywhere between 40 to 55% that means that those who begin in grade 1, there's a significant drop-off to grade 8. So that, in future years, we're going to have to keep an eye on that, because that introduces issues of smaller class sizes as we move up the grades, or the doubling and maybe tripling of classes the higher we get in grades. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, the next section is the one that I would signal to you requires the most thought and consideration. There are unfunded costs in our optional French immersion program, both at the extended level from grades 5 to 8 and the early French immersion. The transportation costs that we incur are unfunded costs by the ministry. So that comes out of the general discretionary revenue, that small little amount that we have to begin with. And so you can see some of the figures in the body of the report of how much is spent on transportation, and that comes at a cost of for other programming that we might wish to undertake in the board. So there's always a balance between the costs and the things that we cannot fund in other areas. So that continues to be an area that you will need to consider in future when we talk about this issue, as well as extended French, especially in terms of expansion. Just as a final list of options, senior staff discussed each of the 4 options listed there. We have recommended the option of the status quo at this time. We believe that the timing of this review and other review processes happening within our board make it not really the best time to talk about either expansion or contraction of this program. So we recommend that we continue to run the program as we have for the past year and 8 months or so. But the other options are listed there with the pros and cons. And just a quick conclusion that it's a little early. The data set is not robust enough to draw any major conclusions at this time. So our recommendation is status quo for this program, and I'm happy to answer any questions. That would also invite Dr. Van Roosmalen to answer any questions that you might have as well.
Trustee Quinn, Trustee Rowe.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the Superintendent. What was glaring or standing out in the report to me was the demand, the interest in the program. And as a board, to keep the status quo, seems that we're ignoring the first page of the report that talks about what the demand for such programs are. Can you respond to how we get to understand the demand, but decide that the status quo is the way to go?
Through you, Madam Chair, there are examples, without naming them specifically, of boards that have looked at this particular issue of meeting the demand and have changed the entire complexion of their schools across their districts. In some cases, meeting the demand in certain areas means that you end up effectively with single-track schools eventually. In other words, a dual-track school, just to explain what the difference is a school where English and French exist in relative balance. When the priority is on meeting the demand, that could result in a single-track school eventually. In other words, the balance between the English track and the French track has come to the point where the English program is not viable anymore. In some commentary, the word ghettoized is used in terms of the English program. And a real result is that, one potential outcome is that one of our English students lives across the street from a school, but cannot have access to it because that school has become single-track French immersion. I come back to the issue of meeting the demand would also mean staffing the demand, and staffing the demand at this time is a precarious thing. There simply aren't enough teachers to go around for French extended and immersion programs. And we want the best we've always committed to you to have the best quality teachers in our board, because we know that good teaching makes the biggest difference on student achievement. So there are balances to consider when you think about the question of demand and meeting that demand. And these are real issues that school boards need to deal with. The director and I have visited actually school boards where this is happening, and they identify it as their single biggest issue to deal with in their board. So not to mention the whole cost factor around transportation as well. So there are real issues to consider in terms of meeting the demand.
Trustee Intomasi, did you have a question? I'm sorry, Trustee Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, this report is very impressive. Thank you for all the work to you and to everyone who contributed to it. My question is to do with the demand, as referred to earlier, and I understand about the staffing problems. But I was thinking of transportation. Are there certain areas where there's enough demand from of students who want to be in early French immersion from a particular school which does not have French immersion, and those students are transported? Is there any thought given to opening another class at a school that particularly has a high demand from the one school, and adding to the number of classes offered, or are we just taking an attitude of looking at it when we review it?
Through you, Madam Chair. It's a good question. It's a question that we've actually reflected on as a senior team extensively. I think one of the problems with assessing demand as it is demanded through the registration process is that there's really no way to predict where those pockets will be. If you add to the fact that many of our schools are at or near capacity, especially in some areas, that may not fit where the demand is. There may not be space where the demand is. And so that's an incredibly complex consideration that in the ideal world might be the solution. However, the variable that is unpredictable is where that demand will be at any registration period. And the nature of our schools is that we don't have a lot of empty space in some areas. And in fact, in some areas, we have absolutely no empty space. And so that becomes a pretty big planning issue to deal with. And we would want to consider that option in all our municipalities to be as fair as possible to everyone in our board. But again, one never knows where the demand will be when registration happens.
Trustee Intomasi.
I actually thought of something. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, and I think we've had this conversation before, whether you can charge for transportation. I don't know that we can. And the other question would be, if I realize we have other things to review before we go back and review this, but are we looking at a specific timeline? If it's in here, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it. Like it's another year, 2 years?
Madam Chair, if I may, I'll take the charging for transportation. The answer is no. The Education Act is a permissive act, and so if it says you could charge for transportation, and you could, it does not say that in there, so it is not. You cannot do that.
And the other question was timeline. We will, at this point, it really depends on when the other reviews will be ended, and so we wouldn't want to undertake a re-review until we have the results of the reviews that are about to happen.
Trustee Quinn?
Through you, Madam Chair. So through our town hall meetings that we're scheduling for next month and the strategic planning feedback we expect to hear from parents and ratepayers, if we hear that the demand is as loud and vocal, is it not incumbent on us to react to that demand?
Superintendent Negro?
I can't answer a question about how you will react to demand. I mean, that will be up to you to decide. I do wish to caution trustees on kind of the implications of meeting that demand, though. It may fundamentally change our schools the way we know them, and I'd be happy to put together some potential scenarios around what that might involve. We have a lot of learnings from boards that have gone in this direction and perhaps wish they wouldn't. I would remind you that it is an optional program. I would also remind you that there is a cost associated with this program, and so when we expand, I guess the next question is, what will we give up to fund the additional programming that we want to offer? We have talked as a group around the coming years and how challenging they'll be with budgets that we think will not increase greatly and may actually decrease. And so with every new expense, we'll have to find ways to reduce our expenditures to make up for it. So difficult conversations, good conversations to have, but everything for us has to be in balance in terms of how we meet the needs of all of our students.
Trustee Danko?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to point out as a matter of, for my fellow board members, that at the time we were implementing full-day kindergarten, this board implemented a greater number of classes than was prescribed by the ministry, and the rationale for that was in response to excessive demand.
Chair, Trustee Danko is quite right. It's a little bit different, though, if I may, because that was to try to keep the students that might go to another board, public board, in our system, and the ministry only funded up to a certain amount. This is our own these are largely our own students anyway, switching from the regular program to French immersion. So it's a little bit different. The other, while I have the floor, Madam Chair, item that Superintendent Negro mentioned was the difficulty in staffing that demand. Just to repeat that, it is, and Joe just came back. I mean, Joe can speak more to it than anyone in terms of trying to recruit early French immersion or mid-immersion teachers, extended French, and the difficulty in staffing. So that is one of the fundamental problems.
Trustee Carabella?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, can you just clarify the status quo? Are we adding a grade level each year?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, yes, the status quo actually means adding a grade level each year. What we would propose is not to add new sites in any of the regions. We currently have 4 sites, actually 5 if you count St. Peter, but we're phasing that out and moving to St. Benedict. But we have 1 regional site effectively per municipality, and so we would continue with those into grade 3 and onward, but not adding any additional sites or additional classrooms. We've also limited the number of classrooms to 2, once again to maintain the balance between English and French in all our schools.
Trustee Carabella?
Thank you. I just had two more questions. Why is the extended French being phased out at Our Lady of Fatima, if I understood it well?
Go ahead, Superintendent Pinelli.
Last year, when we were doing our boundary review in Milton, what had happened was we reviewed, and that's part of the discussion when you do expansion, as Superintendent Negro discussed. Every time you add another class, you're adding not just for 1 year, you're adding throughout. So if you're adding an additional early French immersion, that would mean 8 classes 8 times through, because by the time they hit grade 8. And when we were reviewing our numbers in Milton, it became apparent that Our Lady of Fatima was way oversubscribed just by the English stream, let alone it could not accommodate the extended French. And that's why it is being phased out. It was originally housed at Guardian Angels, then it moved to Fatima, and now we've moved it temporarily again to St. Benedict because it had the room. But we know when we presented this to the Milton community, they're fully aware that that will be a temporary, because as the growth comes on board, that school will not be able to sustain that.
Just to add to that, Madam Chair, St. Benedict presents an interesting issue, as does St. Bridget, with both the early French immersion and the extended French. That will potentially upset the balance between the English and French, and so we will be discussing options for that particular program over the coming years, as the two programs not merge into each other because they're different programs, but as they bump up against each other in a couple of years.
Another question?
Just one more. With the busing, I was wondering if that's going to come under review when the busing review goes on. Are these separate for the students, or will it get put into that group of reviewing the busing?
Through you, Madam Chair, they're really separate. The review that we're undertaking is a review of bell times, so that's slightly different. Fred, I don't know if you have any. It would indirectly impact, I guess, the bell times, depending on which buses they're on, if they're transported, but it would be an indirect consequence to those students.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your review. And you're up for the Religious Education Resource Selection.
Through you, Madam Chair, this is the first of two reports that are coming to you to recommend the purchase of the Growing in Faith, Growing in Christ resource that is put out by Pearson and was the choice of the bishops for approval in Ontario. You have a package at your desk that outlines the types of resources that are available in this package. This is a special type of resource report. It's the only one you'll likely see of this kind. We are requesting your permission to provide blanket approval, not only for grade 1, but for all the grades. And we're asking this because there actually is no other choice for resource for this document, and we'd like to take advantage of opportunities to purchase as opportunities arise. If there are any particular sales at times of these resources and we have some funds available, we'd like to go ahead and purchase them, and by doing this blanket type of authorization or approval from you, we would be able to do that. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the resource.
I just wanted to say that I had a chance to look at it when Terry Durham presented to my own parish's CWL group, and then I saw it again at the AGM, and it's absolutely beautiful, wonderful. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, Terry Durham is actually an author in the series, So we're really lucky to have her as a resource for this program.
Trustee Quinn?
Through you, Madam Chair. So if there's only one supplier, how do we get a fair price? And are we required to stay in the Canadian market when there are a number of other English-speaking Roman Catholic school boards in the world?
I think we talked about this last week. Through you, Madam Chair, yes, it's been a struggle to get well, let's put it this way. We had a discussion about price, and we're not the only ones to have had the discussion about price. We will continue to have those discussions, but the costing is as you see it for grade 1. We will have so our plan was to buy the complete package in grade 1 to assess what is available to our students, how our students and teachers will use the package. And our intention is to be a little more selective in future purchases in terms of the types of resources that we buy. So will we buy the big books next year? I don't know. We'll assess how teachers are using them, and we'll try not to buy things that are not actually being used. But we will continue to have those discussions around price. Can we use another program? The answer is no. In fact, this program is approved by the bishops, but is also being used by other jurisdictions outside Ontario, in Canada and in the U.S. So there is a Trillium list in Ontario that lists the approved textbooks by the ministry. This book is not on the Trillium list, but there's a similar Trillium list for religion textbooks. And this is the only package on that list. So,
Trustee Quinn, follow-up?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Have we investigated creating the resources ourselves, using some in-house expertise and giving them the time? When I see $300,000 worth, I see room for a staffer and a researcher, and we have a printing press in-house. Have we looked at those type of options rather than dealing with the sole source provider?
Through you, Madam Chair. We've looked at it, but I think we take our direction on this from the bishops and from ICE in this particular area. We really do, and and that's not to discount the resource. It's a fantastic resource. I think the way we're going to find efficiencies in terms of expenses around it is to really be selective on how many copies we have in our schools, whether we opt into the online version and not the text version at some particular grade, because we are moving in that direction. But for the first year, like I mentioned earlier, we really thought it was necessary to buy the complete package so that we can sample every type of resource to inform our purchasing for the coming years.
Trustee Intomasi?
If I could, through you, Madam Chair, just from being with OCSTA and speaking and listening to the Bishop Boisonneau, who's a representative on OCSTA, I can just so everybody understands, when the bishops look at these kinds of things, they go at it very seriously, to the point where I believe this was coming out, and then as I understand it, grade 8 or something, they do so many years at a time, and it could take them easily a year to do that. So all the curriculum doesn't come out for all grades all at once, because they methodically go through each grade on a sort of a secular thing.
I think, Jack, it's 2 years at a time.
Yes. On the second page of the report, there's the schedule of production. And so you'll see that the only one available for purchase right now is grade 1. And they will be available 2 grades per year over the next few years, up until we get to grade 8. So, and Trustee Antomasi is correct. This is a lot of work goes into both the production and the approval of these resources. So much so that again, the uptake of these resources really goes beyond Ontario, and because it is recognized to be such an outstanding resource.
Follow-up?
Through you, Madam Chair. So just for my clarification then, this $273,284.79 is just for April 2015, grade 1?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct.
What a deal.
Thank you, Superintendent Negro. Moving on to 10.1, Student Trustee Update. Who shall we start with? Chloe.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. So we had a lot going on the last couple of weeks. To start off, we had our Blessed Because campaign. It was the idea of an Assumption senator to come up with our hashtag called Blessed Because to use during Catholic Education Week for me and students to kind of tweet and use on social media and to tell us why they're blessed and why their life is so fulfilled and what they're grateful for. So we had a lot of kind of action that day, and a lot of kids were telling us why they were happy. As you can see, one kid said because they have Jesus in their life, so, you know, good old Jesus, you need to have him. So we also had the students on Thursday, which I believe is the Catholic Youth Day, they had banners. So our senators set out banners, and they wrote Blessed Because on the banners, and the students were able to come out and sign come out and sign them and to kind of show their support for the campaign. At CTK, they did something a little bit different, and they had little chain links. I don't know if you guys remember those from primary schools where you had little chain links and you made kind of a big chain. So they did that around a tree, and each kind of piece was written Blessed Because and why the student was blessed. So it's kind of like a chain link of why you're blessed. And then I think at Corpus Christi, they they sent out cookies to kind of like give, to make kids happy, because who doesn't like cookies? So it was kind of a good way to spread positivity that day and to show students that they're really blessed and that the life that they have here they do certainly take for granted. So then moving on, we had our Similar Differences Conference, which was held last Wednesday at Corpus Christi. We had 10 to 12 students come out from each secondary school in our board. And then we had various activities such as a drum circle. That was kind of like our main activity. So students were kind of like in a circle able to drum out and kind of reflect on using the drums. We had a liturgy as well. We had guest panelists come out and speakers that made up a guest panel, and students were able to kind of get different perspectives on diversity and what it's like to be a human and how to kind of overcome adversity, which was essentially the whole theme of our conference. So at the end, Mr. Wong, a VP at Loyola, he was able to kind of put together a video, and he also put together a survey, and from the survey we kind of got immediate feedback, and a lot of the students were very happy and very glad that they attended, and we got really positive feedback, so it was kind of good to have students like what we were doing and to see that our hard work had finally paid off and what we were putting out there was good. And then to finish off before Joel shows you the shortened video, the shortened version of what Mr. Wong did that day, we have the Osta Eco AGM coming up this Thursday. So it's all the outgoing student trustees, the transitional ones, and the incomings. They're going to meet together in Toronto, and it's going to kind of be a fun conference to kind of get to know each other, to pass on valuable information from what we've all learned from our terms. And we will also be holding their executive elections to elect a new exec for next year. So we have a lot coming up and a lot to look forward to. And without further ado, here is our shortened video.
Trustee Murray, did you have a question? No?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say two other things. So we also had the Ontario Catholic Student Youth Conference, which we went to in London. We took, I think, about 6 or 8 senators. That's a conference that's hosted every 2 years by the school board, and that was at Western this year, or Brescia and King's College. And so that was that year, and that was really good, actually. We learned a lot of different things, and it was interesting seeing how people celebrate their faith very differently in different boards. And we found that interesting. And finally, I wanted to close out by saying we have 4 teacher supervisors each. Well, this year we did. Last year we had 2, and so I just wanted to recognize specifically Teresa Castellarin and Kevin Wong. They've been with me for 2 years. They've been on Senate for 3, and they're both vice principals, as you probably know. They do an incredible job. We see how busy they are, and they put us first all the time. They'll be texting us, calling us at random times. You'll see like 11 o'clock at night, a vice principal, texting me. But no, they really do care, and we wanted to let the board know how much we appreciate how much they give to us. She was here tonight, Ms. Castellarin was here.
Thank you very much, Jason. Joel, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just also wanted to thank, Jason mentioned Mr. Wong and Ms. Castellarin, but also Ms. Bellhauer and Ms. Thomas, who are new this year and have had a really fun time, I think, with us, learning experience with us through this year and planning our different events. And we're just really grateful for the opportunities that we've had this year. And it's not over yet.
Thank you very much. Educational field trips are listed there for your information if you have any questions of Superintendent Narr. No, moving on, we have the budget report for September through 2014 through April 30th, 2015. Superintendent McMahon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the monthly report we bring forward on the operating budget. We are in the process of finalizing our ADE for the year. We've hit the March 31st count date, obviously, and we're in the process through planning services of reconciling the March numbers to the ONSIS reporting with the ministry, and we hope to have those numbers for you at the next, the second board meeting in June to compare to what we had in the revised estimates, and hopefully indications, Fred, I think are that the numbers will be slightly higher than the revised estimates from what we said, right? And so that is a positive thing for the board, meaning more revenue when you multiply by the number of students actually at in the average daily enrollment calculation as opposed to what we estimated in the revised estimates. So the percentages appear to be in the range that we would expect both this year and compared to last year with adjustments. And be happy to answer any questions trustees may have, myself or Roxana.
Seeing no questions, capital project report.
Madam Chair, thank you. Again, this is the monthly report. You'll notice in the report that the POs currently, I think we have only about $60,000 in POs. We are in a bit of a having opened the 2 schools in Milton. There are no schools being built right now open for this September. So we're in a bit of a lull, if you will, right now. So the report reflects projects that are in the works. That are either completed or with some more, just a few more expenses to go through. Again, it shows all of our sites and site expenditures, capital expenditures on new schools, school additions, renewal projects, and also includes our debenture financing, which I indicated before, is now finished because the ministry is funding capital projects twice yearly on a dollar-for-dollar basis. So now all we've got to do is work on paying off these debentures, but we do get ministry funding for that as well. So, excuse me, sorry. It was one of those crank calls too from 01190 or something. I want a cruise or something. Sorry, Madam Chair, that was Roxana or myself would be happy to answer any questions trustees may have.
Trustee Quinn.
Thank you for this report through you, Madam Chair. Just a question on capital projects. I've noticed that the signs have gone up for construction in northeast Oakville, north of Dundas, east of guess it's 8th line, 6th line. Can you remind me, please, what our current land ownership is in that area, or what we're planning to do there?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Trustee Quinn, we own the site at 6th Line and Dundas in that area. We have not got ministry approval for a school on that site. We tried last time in 2013. We're in the process of putting together our capital priorities list for the current round. We haven't as yet received a memo from the ministry asking us for our business cases, but we were in touch with them today, and they said proceed as you would in the past. So that school will be number 1 on the list, and from the staff point of view, and it will come forward to trustees. We're going to bring a staff report forward to the next board meeting. It's an action report at the last board meeting in June with our what staff's list of priorities are for your approval, and then we proceed to do the business cases and submit them to the ministry. Indications are we're going to have probably a 2-month time frame to do that. We hope it's not going to be doing them over the summer. They'll probably be due in the fall. That's my guess. So certainly that school there is topping the list. And Fred, there's a site, I guess, to the east of there, right, that we are looking at as well, because from 16 Mile Creek west on north up to the 407, there's very little residential going to be in that area. It's all from the creek, 16 Mile Creek, over to 10th Line, I guess. Fred, is that where is essentially 10th Line? Yeah. So, but we're well positioned with the site. We just need approval for the school for the particular site through you, Madam Chair, that Trustee Quinn referred to.
Thank you very much. Halton Student Transportation Services Annual Home to School Transportation Review. Superintendent McMahon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick, for the benefit, for a refresher for existing trustees and for the new trustees, because I don't believe we brought this forward. We bring it forward on an annual basis. Our transportation policy, which is harmonized with the public board through HSTS, basically has 3 criteria that we do transport for, and they're indicated in Appendix A in the background. There's 3 bullets there, if you will. It's page 1 of 10 of the background report, Appendix A. Sorry, and I guess in your packet, 179. So if the student lives beyond the walk distance, so 1.6 elementary, 3.2 secondary, then they are transported. If there's a traffic or safety hazard, for example, sidewalks are not finished, we transport for those reasons. The third one is validated physical, emotional, or developmental reasons of the student. So in our case, right now there are no what we call transportation exceptions, meaning where those items are satisfied and we still transport the student. There are no exceptions. What the report refers to is exemptions. So where there is a traffic or safety hazard, and if I can use one that's mentioned in the report on Derry Road in Milton, just by there the other day at the St. Benedict's opening, they're building an underpass along Derry Road, and it's currently under construction. So when that's finished, it will allow for walking through there because they're making it more pedestrian friendly. That's an example of a traffic or safety hazard, which is in place right now, but we hope to have that removed over the summer, as the report indicates. So there are 2 particular schools affected by that. John Vanier is affected by the thing I just mentioned, and St. Anthony of Padua is affected by further construction improvements along the road there with respect to sidewalks. I guess it is for mostly sidewalks, right? So the report indicates that we're hoping those will be completed. We've had this before. We're hoping to be completed over the summer months when they're able to do the construction, and we will keep parents informed as to where those, if the improvements are not there and they're not satisfactory, and HSTS does check those with the town. It isn't like they go and say, oh, that looks good. It's verified, and so If that's the case in time for school opening, then parents will be informed. Those are the only two that have come up right now that may change. We do have cases where there's still no improvements and they're not forthcoming. So those are transported within the policy, and Fred or myself be happy to answer any questions trustees may have.
Trustee Quinn?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the superintendent, I had occasion to be at a meeting with and shared a roundtable with the chair of the co-terminus board, and she discussed the review of bell times and indicated that the reason for the review was to accommodate high school students who intended to sleep in a little longer, or based on their review of that. Can you please assure me that that is not the case, and that it is actually an effort to save money or find the best routing for our kids, and not based on sleep times?
Through you, Madam Chair, we did discuss that at some length, and the chair and the director are fellow members of the board of HSTS with myself, and so that was originally proposed by the public board, so-called circadian rhythms of secondary students, but I'm just reporting what I heard. So this is a full-scale bell time review. We haven't done it since the French boards left the consortium 2 or 3 years ago, and we agreed we would go into it with the public board with that in mind. That's not to say that things could, in the review, optimize where some of those times happened. But again, for us, if, as we said earlier, if there were significant changes in the bell times of a secondary school, as an example, that may not be very amenable to the community. So we will bring back the report as we indicated, which would show those parameters, the costs, and all the things we indicated for trustee approval before we proceed. So you can rest assured that will be the case.
Trustee Rabenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pertaining to that particular report to Superintendent McMahon, perhaps you'll also let us know if there are any negative changes to the elementary school bus times as a result of accommodating rhythms of the secondary students, or anything furthermore?
Certainly, Madam Chair, and I would even just back off from that, because that's not the focal point of the review. So although it has been discussed, we're going to do, as I said, a wholesale review of those, all the bell times. So it would include all elementary and secondary schools to the extent possible. I mean, changing a bell time by an hour is probably not going to be an acceptable, and that's conjecture on my part, but a long-established community, where the bell times, tweaking bell times we do on an annual basis as needed, but if we're going to change the bell times to try to optimize, we've got to have a window of change that is reasonable, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And now we have Superintendent McGillicuddy with Creating Pathways for Success.
Through you, Madam Chair, presented for information is the Creating Pathways to Success report. Pathways represents one of the 4 pillars of student success, the others being literacy, numeracy, and community culture and care. The Board Pathways team and school staff offer students specialized programs and experiential learning opportunities that foster student engagement and honor the dignity of all post-secondary pathways equally: college, university, apprenticeship, and the world of work. This report highlights our current Pathways system initiatives designed to support success for all. So this year, the ministry saw the implementation for the Creating Pathways to Success Education Career Life Planning Program for Ontario Schools Policy Program Requirements, which replaced the old Choices into Action document. For our elementary schools, that meant the establishment of an Education Career Life Program Planning Advisory Committee, and the primary work of that committee for this year was to identify appropriate activities by grade level that involved either career and life planning or the 4-step inquiry model. I draw your attention to the colorful graphic with the 4 steps. Who am I? What are my opportunities? Who do I want to become? And what is my plan for achieving my goals? So our elementary schools were focusing on identifying activities related to that process this year. Also this year, primary and junior teachers were in-serviced in the All About Me portfolio, which is a web-based e-portfolio that will be used by students to record their progress in terms of their education and career life planning in grades 2 through 6, starting this September. Also at the elementary panel, there were some opportunities for young people to explore college opportunities. The Young Women's Conference that took place at Rim Park in early May, Spotlight Sheridan, and Destination College. The better part of 350 elementary school students were able to participate in those opportunities. As the board is, as the chair will know, having attended it, the Ontario Technological Skills Competition took place earlier this year at the Halton, and on pages 3 and 4 and 5 of the report, you'll see the results of those competitions of our Halton Catholic students. In terms of elementary, we did have 3 schools enter 5 competitions, and you can see the results there on page 3. And I would highlight that at the Ontario Technological Skills Competition, the St. Paul's grade 7 and 8 robotics team, coached by teacher Jen Thompson, received a bronze in the category of grade 4 to 6 Lego robotics. Moving to the secondary accomplishments in the Ontario Skills on page 4, you'll see that there were 125 of our students competed at Halton Skills. Those students collected a record haul of 23 medals, including 8 gold and 8 silver. 21 of those students moved on to Ontario Skills Competition. And on page 4 and 5 of the report, you'll see the results for Halton. I will note that at the Ontario Technological Skills Competition, Holy Trinity's Cassandra Bott, coached by Technological Studies Department Head Bruce Law, received a gold in architectural design. Cassandra also received an award for achieving the highest score for a female competitor in any event in the competition, as well as the highest score out of all secondary student competitors. And Cassandra moves on to represent Team Ontario at Canada Skills in Saskatoon. Moving on to secondary programming opportunities available to our students. On page 6, you'll see the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, what we call the concentrated OYAP programs that are available at electrical at Bishop Redding, child development practitioner at Bishop Redding, child youth worker at Bishop Redding, and the hairstyling programs at Bishop Redding, Notre Dame, and St. Thomas Aquinas. Then the specialist high schools major programs are outlined on page 7. I draw your attention to the increase in total student participation over the course of the years 2012-13 through this year, 2014-2015. Student participation has more than doubled during that time period. I would also like to share with members of the board that for September there are 3 new ministry-approved programs, 2 of them at Assumption, one the non-profit sector, the other sports leadership, those both at Assumption, and the third new ministry-approved program will be manufacturing at Notre Dame. Dual credit is a program that's relatively new in terms of programming with our board, and pages 7 and 8 indicate the program participation. You will note that at the bottom of page 8 that over the course of the time from 2010 until this year, student participation has almost tripled, and I would anticipate that this is one of our programs that's going to grow most rapidly because it offers students an opportunity to earn day school, high school credits at the same time as they are earning college credits. And it's a tremendous opportunity for students to experience college life as a full-time enrolled college student while still attending high school. You will note that there are new programs coming in that dual credit for September. Jean Vanier will have a fitness leadership that runs through Sheridan. Notre Dame will have a manufacturing that will run through Mohawk, and Bishop Redding will be piloting with Mohawk a writer's craft program. Secondary schools also were implementing Creating Pathways to Success. They also had to establish their committee, their Education Career Life Program Advisory Committee. The work this year emphasized looking into their subject area ministry documents to identify activities that were specific to subjects related to career and life planning, and also the 4-step inquiry process. On page 9, you'll see a reference to our Student Success Conference, where over 500 students, 200 elementary and 300 secondary students were able to participate in a sessions offered by 18 vendors, and our keynote speaker, Joel Hilche, who talked about personal growth and leadership. The last pages of the report indicate the Speak Up projects that were approved and are active this school year. And I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize the work of the Board Pathways team under the leadership of Kathy Jenkins, whose efforts to promote the value and dignity of all post-secondary pathways has been instrumental to program growth and success. And I welcome questions at this time, Madam Chair.
That's a fabulous report. Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions or comments? Trustee Rowe?
Just to echo your comment, Madam Chair, this is fabulous, and the direction that we're heading in, I'm very, very pleased to see it. And the more opportunities that we can offer to all our students, the better it will be, and particularly at the elementary level, so that they can see that there's other opportunities rather than just plain old book learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McGillicuddy. Information item 10.7. The notice of motion brought by Trustee Danko has already been read into the record, and it will appear as an action item at the June 2nd board meeting. Policy Committee minutes of April 14th are there for your information. Under correspondence, you have some letters. There was also, I think, 7 to 10 letters in addition that have to be redacted and will be available for your information in the future, near future. Also attached is the 2015 to 16 school year calendar approval, Ministry. And if I can just beg indulgence for a moment, I received a card and I was asked to hand read it by former trustee and chair Alexandre Lemay, and it's dated May 13th, and it says, Dear student trustees, boards of trustee, and senior staff, the student trustees today put on a wonderful leadership conference, Our Similar Differences. They have challenged the youth of the board to promote inclusivity and diversity. The workshop showed many diverse cultural activities, including henna painting. There were also workshops on sign language and accessibility. I was so pleased to be invited to attend the day by the student trustees. The day ended with a very informative panel discussion. Like the front of this card, may the students continue to fly high and go out and change attitudes in a secular society. God bless, Alison. If there's any questions, I don't think so. And we don't have to move back in camera. We have no absentees. If we can have an adjournment and then our closing prayer. Trustee Quinn moves for adjournment, seconded by Trustee Marai. All in favor? Thank you. And closing prayer, Trustee Antomasi. Thank you.
Thank you. Being, of course, we're still in the month of May, not too much left in it actually, it's moving quickly. And we are past Mother's Day, but we are still honoring our Mother Mary. So if you could join me in the sign of our faith, in the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God the Father, with the Son and the Spirit, you brought about salvation of the world, which we celebrate this Easter season. Today especially, we thank you for the gift of women who labor in love, making sure that the necessary things of life get done with grace. In them we know your motherly concern for the world. Inspired by their example, we learn that brothers and sisters must love one another and work together for the good of the family. Bless our mothers. Keep them always close in your life, giving love. Amen. In the Father, and the Son,